Hello friends, this is Lutz with Citizens Oversight. Today I want to give you a short tutorial about our lawsuit regarding the elections in California. As you know, a lot of the questions have been thrown about the this election in California and whether it was fixed or not, or whether there's things that can be done better. We've been actually looking into this for a number of years, and now we had finally the perfect opportunity to raise these issues a little bit more. So I have sort of jury-rigged here a way to sort of show you on my PC screen as I go through it with you. I hope you can see it. If not, please take a look at the graphic that's available for download, so you can look at it more carefully. I think this should come in pretty clearly though. Now, first of all, the manual tally is mandated in California. A lot of states don't require it, but it is required here, and it's a really good thing that we have this at our disposal, because they are counting the actual physical ballots. And so this is the best way to ensure that the election is clean. However, they're not even doing this 1% manual tally correctly. Let's split. So we have a lawsuit that we filed here in San Diego against the Registrar of Voters, Michael Vu, who, by the way, was the same registrar who conducted, and two of his subordinates admitted, sort of stuffing the 1% manual tally being done there. And so this is a prime candidate for someone who might do this sort of thing. However, first of all, let's talk about, before I go through the details, how a hacker or perhaps a compromised employee inside the Registrar of Voters might fix the election for one candidate versus another. So if there's two candidates and one looks like they're losing, and that's the one that the hacker wants to win, they may have to change quite a few votes to push this candidate up. In fact, they want to get it a significant win so that there'll be no further scrutiny of the election. It'll be, it's a landslide. So they have to actually change 10 or 20,000 votes. But given that we have, as you see here, there's 1,522 precincts. Let me start here. This is the polls ballots, this yellow block, and each one of these are the precincts. Now, they're not actually precincts, they're actually consolidated precincts, and these are the sequence numbers, which are not actually the precinct numbers, but an arbitrary number given in sequence as the actual consolidated precincts are processed. Each one of these consolidations we're just going to call a precinct, but they have about 400 ballots in them. So if you wanted to fix this election, there's 1,522 precincts, and let's say you wanted to change 20,000 votes. You could do it in the central tabulator. As long as you weren't caught, you could switch maybe 1,000 of these precincts by only 20 votes, and no one would be the wiser, because 20 votes out of 400, you really don't notice it. You can't really fix any one precinct too much, or it'd start to be noticeable. So that's really the type of hack that we're looking for. They actually don't say this is the reason for the 1% tally. They say it's just to check the computers. But really, the computers have human operators. And so we're really talking about checking not just the computers, but their human operators as well. Now, in this first block here, we have all the precincts, starting with 1 down to 1522, and the ... means there's many more of these. And I'm just showing you that there's a few of these precincts that are selected for the 1% manual tally. And out of 1522, they're going to round up and choose 16 precincts. It's really not much out of 1,522 precincts. Fairly easy to miss those, especially if you know what they are in advance. If you know what these selected precincts are ahead of the election, it's simple as not to just skip those in your hacking, fix maybe another 1,000 in different places, and no one would be the wiser. down here, this line here, I'm indicating as a report that we get out. We have requested from the registrar, and we've actually requested this of all counties in California to help us with our oversight by providing this snapshot file, we're calling it. The snapshot is the results of the election that are going to match this 1% manual tally that they're doing here. So at the end of election night, all these ballots are brought in. Now they take some of them out. They don't bring in they don't include the provisionals at this stage, and they don't include any that are removed for quality control purposes, such as a mangled ballot or extra marking and stuff. And those are actually taken out and diverted into another step. So when they do the 1% manual tally, each one of these that are selected here, they total up by hand, and then we can compare with the computer result. Again, if you were a hacker and you're trying to fix the election, you didn't know in advance what these were, then we might hit one that you fixed out of 1,000. So there's a chance you could be, you could be hacked. So if you know what they are in advance, of course, it's easy to miss them. If you don't know, then after the election, what you could do is just unfix the ones which are selected for the 1% manual tally, and then it would match. And then you distribute your fixes to other precincts that are not included. However, if we have the snapshot data file here, then we can go back and check to see what it was to begin with before they had the opportunity to fix it. That means we have to have the snapshot data file before the 1% manual draw is performed. So that's the first set. Let's go down here a little bit. So we're going to move down here. The next batch is the vote by mail ballots. And these have the same sort of structure, except a little bit different. So we have all the precincts across. These are the vote by mail ballots that had been sent in to the registrar of voters ahead of time. And the registrar they can start counting these 10 days in advance of the election. So they'll have a big batch of these. Now this first set up here, we've estimated, the first set at the top, the polls ballots, those are about 195,000 ballots in San Diego. And this next batch down is the vote by mail ballots that came in before the end of election night, and they were able to take a look at the signatures and screen them, and then also count them before the end of election night. And that is this group here, and that's about 290,000 ballots. Quite a few more than the precinct ballots, even at this stage. Now, you have all the precincts going across, but what they did here in their draw, which we attended, and you can watch a separate video of the actual draw in San Diego, these were the batches indicated here just for illustration. And again, those precincts that I have shown there just for illustration, that those weren't the ones that they actually chose. They're somewhere else, throughout the 1522, but it's hard to show all 1522 on the screen. So here we have 1,522 precincts going across, and what they did was they batched these up. So when these come in, they come in random order. These precincts on election night, they're all in the same box or set of boxes that come in for a given precinct or precinct consolidation. They all come together and they're all scanned together, so you have one tight little result here that can be compared with the data file that we have. These vote by mail ballots are received in random order or arbitrary order, and then they're batched up into batches of 400 each in mixed precinct batches. And in the random draw, they chose a number of batches, which I'm showing here in this color, and those they chose 8 batches because they had a total of 730 batches in the set that came in by the end of election night. We do have a precinct by precinct data file here. That isn't the way they're actually counted. They're actually counted by batch. So it's better for us in our oversight would be to get the actual total of these batches and compare it with a data file that we'd have in advance. What's really important in trying to observe and confirm that there's no hanky-panky going on is for these batches to be tightly controlled so that there's no employees stuffing the ballot box, if you will, the batch box inside. That's what happened in Ohio under Michael Vu. His subordinates were trying to fix up the batches so that they would match and they wouldn't have to do any more work. They said, oh, it was just an innocent thing because they didn't want to do any work. Well, that was 2004 when supposedly Bush stole the election the second time. So I don't think it should be blown off so easily. Right here, these were the totals again, precinct by precinct. We have that, but it doesn't match the batches. So we pointed this out, and so now what the registrar has proposed is to go through all of the batches and pull out just the precincts that are included in this result. That means a lot of processing of those batches to pull out just those ballots, and that means a lot of handling, a lot of opportunity for them to fool with the ballots here and make sure that they match. You don't think that's the right way to handle this, and I don't think it's the right way. It's not in the intention of the election code for them to be resorting things once they've gone through the machine. What you want to do is run these through the machine, get a machine result, and compare it directly with the computer result so that we can see a one-to-one correspondence. And so we know that there's been really no opportunity for them to manipulate either the ballots in the box or the computer file, because we need these totals of all the batches. We need that in a file that we can then set up, have before these are randomly chosen. We've asked for it from the San Diego and for several years, several elections, and they've never been forthcoming with that, and they refused to do it this time. Well, that's not the worst of it. Turns out there's a whole bunch of vote by mail ballots that come in that come in by election day, but they're not processed yet. So a whole bunch of them come in, and they have up to 3 days to actually get there, as long as they're postmarked by the election day. So there's this section of vote by mail ballots which are received and are not yet, they're in the queue to be processed, the signatures checked and so forth. They're not processed by the end of election night. These are not included. There's, according to what we asked them, we said you're going to have to choose another 8 because this is about another 285,000 ballots, this and the next one. Actually, it's about, say, round numbers, about 210,000 ballots in this set. And so these are vote by mail ballots. They should be batched up into batches, 400 approximately per batch, and they should choose some more batches, give us a data file so that we can have it locked away, and then choose randomly from this new set another 8, and then do the manual tally on that. We asked them to do it and they refused, courteously. So, respectfully refused. Thank you for the respect. Now, the final set is the provisional ballots and any ballots that were pulled out for quality control inspection. These ballots this is a fairly large set in this election because it's all the nonpartisan voters who have elected to vote for the Democratic candidate, typically Bernie Sanders. And they normally what you're supposed to do is you go into the polling place and you say, I'd like to have the crossover ballot. They give it to you, and then it would go into that first set without any more scrutiny, because you've already been scrutinized when you came into the precinct. Those ballots should be included in this first set, which should be included in the 1% manual tally just elegantly up there. However, they've all been sidelined here so that they're in a provisional back eddy, And some of them, now we've had some changes in that they said, okay, we're going to go ahead, even though some of them didn't get exactly the right ballot type. Perhaps they got a regular Democratic ballot instead of a crossover ballot, which doesn't have a few of the typically central committee races, which are somewhat inconsequential anyway. But they were saying that those weren't valid. Now we've had some movement in the direction to say that they are valid. This is this set here. And both these vote by mail and all of the provisionals and the quality control ballots that were sidelined before were not intended to be included in the 1% manual tally either. So we don't have any computer result precinct by precinct. We don't have any computer result batch by batch. And they're not even drawing batches for any of these. There's no way that we can tell or keep them honest with regard to all of these extra ballots here. So our lawsuit is regarding this 1% manual tally and how it's been misused and diluted in its power by the Registrar of Voters in San Diego and maybe other counties in California, maybe other places as well. They're starting to try to minimize or actually divert many ballots away from the 1% manual tally, apparently so that they can avoid detection of any kind of malfeasance that might be going on. That's all I can imagine, unless they just are just strictly lazy. But it is a law that they're supposed to include all the ballots cast within the 1% manual tally. We also assert that this practice that they've started here with the regular vote by mails coming in, with these batches that they did select in the other video, that those they want to now go through all of the precincts, pull out the ballots that are only included in these selected precincts, and then count those. Well, in the first vote by mail batch, it isn't too bad because they didn't know what these were before we do have the computer results so we can check it. But all of these other ones, the vote by mails that came in later and the provisionals, they know in advance what the precincts have been selected, so they can make sure that those are always going to check and put their fixes in elsewhere. So if these provisionals don't turn out like we might expect, such as we expect a vast majority of these provisionals to be leaning toward Bernie Sanders, and if they don't, then we should put our suspicion hat on and say that maybe these have been manipulated because they've also been kept out of this 1% audit, which is an amazing step that these registrars have taken to try to divert all of these out of this audit trail. Now, Citizens Oversight filed a lawsuit, and it's going to be, we have a hearing on July 6th in San Diego. We'd like to also invite you to come to that. There may be other hearings. Check on our website at citizensoversight.org. We'd like to invite you to contribute to our war chest. As we go forward, we're going to need some funds in order to go after this in a larger way, especially as we're looking at 58 counties in California. But usually the top 12 or so is the ones we really want to focus on that are the lion's share of the issue. But this is something where if we do it right, we can really keep a handle on what this potential malfeasance in the Registrar of Voters and give us a lot more confidence that these elections are being run correctly. Again, I'm Ray Lutz with Citizens Oversight, and I thank you very much for watching the video.